content here with you here. So I hope you will continue to join us for future events. My name is Nancy Kelly, and I serve on the steering committee and as a founding member of NYC Builds Bio. I am joined by my fellow founding and steering committee member, Mitch Simpler, managing partner of JBB. Would you like to say hello, Mitch?
I would love to. It just took me a second to get everything to turn back on. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our fourth installment for the emerging bioscience clusters for New York City. It is a real pleasure to be here. And as Nancy said, I'm one of the co-founders, and we really believe that this is making a pivotal change in our industry to help educate all the participants in terms of what each of us does and what our contributions will be moving forward. So with that, and no further ado, Nancy, would you please carry on and welcome everybody again.
Thank you, Mitch. So I would like to thank the Cove, a new ground up live, work, play, life science tech campus being developed by Argent Ventures in Jersey City, not only for presenting this afternoon, but also for sponsoring this webinar. I would also like to thank Triumvirate Environmental for being the lead sponsor of this seminar series. And last but not least, to acknowledge the founding and corporate members of NYC Builds Bio who make this programming possible. We're really excited to welcome you to this fourth webinar of the sponsored seminar series with Triumvirate Environmental. This webinar is entitled Emerging Life Science Subclusters in the Greater New York Metro Area. It will focus on Hudson Square in New York City and Jersey City, just across the Hudson River. Our first webinar, held in January, discussed the impact of a recent NYC Builds City planning study of the Greater New York Metro Life Science economy on all of the subclusters in the Greater New York Metro region. It concluded that the New York metro area, which includes New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, enjoys the largest life science economy in the United States, and the 2020 census data shows it growing faster than many other regions of the country. The second webinar, held in February, focused on two of the fastest growing subclusters in New York City, Midtown West and Long Island City. The third webinar, held in March, focused on exciting new projects in Midtown East and Manhattanville and Harlem. You can find links to all of those sessions on the NYC Builds Bio website. This seminar series will run for 8 episodes from January through September 2022, each covering different life science subclusters in the Greater New York City metro area in more depth. All of these subclusters are growing up around existing academic institutions and new private life science development in neighborhoods, which have distinct social, cultural, and recreational flavors. The next seminar is scheduled for May 31st, focusing on Mount Sinai and Academic Alley, the largest concentration of top academic medical centers in the world. Registration is open, so be sure to sign up after this event to learn more. And be sure to check out our website for other upcoming events. Before opening it up to our program today, let me give you some information about developing life science clusters in New York City and beyond. Asking the question, where is life science growth taking place in the Greater New York marketplace? Well, just as it happened in Cambridge, Mass. Over the course of the development of its life science cluster, a number of subclusters are developing around academic hubs in Manhattan, flanked by 2 ground-up development opportunities in live, work, play environments for millions of square feet of commercial life science space in Long Island City and Jersey City. Next slide, please. And you can see that here on the map with the BioArc, which basically was conceived of by NJKA and Ennead Architects. It basically goes from northern New York City all the way down through Jersey City and beyond, through Brooklyn and Long Island, and then the gateway to Tarrytown and Westchester up in the Bronx. Next slide. The East Coast corridor, consisting of Mount Sinai, Academic Alley, Long Island City, Midtown East, Brooklyn, Long Island, and Hudson Square, which is the nexus between the east and west sides of Manhattan. Next slide. The West Side corridor stretches from the Bronx Hutchinson Metro Center down through Columbia Presbyterian in the north, and then through Manhattanville, Midtown West, Hudson Square, and on to Jersey City. Today, we will learn about the subcluster of Hudson Square, which includes a number of important foundational life science projects, such as JLABS, New York Genome Center, and BioLabs at NYU Langone, and Google Hudson Square. I will introduce the neighborhood and JLABS. To discuss the other exciting projects, we have Nico Robine, Scientific Director, Computational Biology, Genome Technologies at the New York Genome Center, and Glennis Mehra, Site Director at BioLabs at NYU Langone. Then we will learn more about the growing subcluster in Jersey City. I will introduce the neighborhood, followed by Clay McPhail, Vice President, Acquisitions and Asset Management at Argent Ventures, and Peter Schubert, Partner at NE Architects, who will introduce the Cove. Then Camilla Grello, Vice President, Asset Management of Thor Equities, and John Cahill, Senior Vice President of JLL, will introduce 95 Green Street, an exciting new conversion for life sciences offering pre-built lab space for companies graduating from incubators. Before I turn it over to Triumvirate Environmental for introductions, I wanted to cover a few administrative details. We have nearly 200 people registered for today, so please keep your cameras and microphones off during the program to minimize technical difficulties. There's a program and PowerPoint highlighting the hosts, sponsors, speakers, and content for the meeting. These will be posted on the NYC Builds Bio website. The program is being recorded and will be available on the website and NYC Builds Bio YouTube channel. Since most of you are participating in listen-only mode, please feel free to submit your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We will open up for discussion and Q&A at the end of the program, and will address as many questions as possible. If we have time at the end of the meeting, we will also have a chance for smaller randomized groups to meet in separate rooms where you can open your videos and microphones to talk to each other. Now I would like to introduce Alicia Anello, General Manager, New York Branch, Triumvirate Environmental, the lead sponsor for this seminar series.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alicia Aniello, and I am the General Manager of Triumvirate's New York and New Jersey operation. Triumvirate has been the leading environmental health and safety service provider to the life science community going on 34 years now. From laboratory moves to regulatory setup, permitting, and on-site support, including waste disposal, we've partnered with hundreds of life science companies across the country and helped them grow safely from their early stages in incubator spaces through to production and larger manufacturing spaces. I've been with Triumvirate for almost 16 years, and it's been wonderful to witness some of the ideas, go from those incubator stages and into, real life. Our success comes from our flexibility and customization of our offerings to fill all EHS needs through one vendor, thus leaving the researchers and the management companies free to remain hyper-focused on their science and the success of their businesses. At the request of some of our longest clients from Cambridge, we set up locations in California 4 years ago so we can continue to service our bi-coastal clients at a national level. With the excitement and growth here in the New York metro area, I thought Triumvirate could host this series and place the spotlight on the area with our long list of life science clientele across the country as our audience. As Nancy discussed, with our world-class research hospitals and top universities, along with the growing amount of space and funding being dedicated to life science here in the New York metro area, our locale is ideal for collaboration between researchers and innovators. We're in an industrial part of Astoria, so there's a few trucks moving by Astoria, Queens. At the local level, speaking of Astoria, Queens, Triumvirate has had a full operation here in Astoria since 2003, including the only commercially permitted hazardous waste storage facility in the 5 boroughs. We are the only local resource in this market, and having the facility right across the street puts us in the same seat as so many of our clients. We're under the full scrutiny of the Department of Environmental Protection, the Fire Department, FDNY, and the New York State DEC. We've been providing EHS support and consulting, waste disposal support, and emergency response services to some of the largest research institutions in New York City for over 20 years. We have over 40 consultants local to the New York metro area and a fleet of just over 50 vehicles here. Moving on to today, today's speakers are coming from spaces new and old. The New York Genome Center was one of the pioneering life science spaces in New York City that we partnered with upon opening many years ago. I'm really interested also to hear about the burgeoning sector in Jersey City. I personally haven't seen any of those spaces, so I'm looking forward to our virtual tours today. Nancy, again, thank you so much to you and to New York City Builds Bio for providing us with this platform and for agreeing to take on this 8-part series. It's been a lot of work for you, so thank you again. And thank you, of course, to all of our speakers and those of you who logged in to join us for this series and for this episode and future series.
Terrific. Thank you, Alicia. Next slide. So we're going to start out by looking at Hudson Square. And this is an area that is near and dear to my heart because when I was serving as the founding executive director of the New York Genome Center, we sited the New York Genome Center in Hudson Square with the approval of all of the academic institutions in the greater New York area because of the quality of life in Hudson Square, lots of restaurants, great open streets, which are easily accessible, just wonderful residential areas, and most importantly, the transportation network where you can get almost anywhere in the city from this area. And so we were very excited to find the building that the New York Genome Center is in now, and Nico is going to tell you a little bit about that. But this slide basically tells you who basically is in Hudson Square on a day-to-day basis, consists of visitors, office workers, residents, service workers, hotel guests, and students. Great mix. All of them are well educated and relatively young. And we have located here not only the New York Genome Center, but now JLABS and BioLabs at NYU Langone. The newest addition to the neighborhood is Google, who has just recently purchased and built out the south portion of St. John's Terminal for $2.1 billion. And plans to put a large number of employees there who will live and work in the neighborhood. So it's a bustling place, very exciting place to be. Next slide. Unfortunately, JLABS was not able to participate today, so I'm going to share with you some of the slides that they showed a few years back when they did participate in our program. Obviously, JLABS is founded by Johnson & Johnson, which is a worldwide pharmaceutical company. I'll wait until we can get our slideshow back up here. Thank you. It has 3 business segments, more than 250 operating companies, and 130,000 employees worldwide. So it is quite the force in the life science industry. Next slide, please. This is just a representative sampling of some of their operating companies. Next slide. And JLABS has global reach, so they have established JLABS operations all over the world, including in New York City in 2018, which we are very excited to welcome. Next slide. And so when they located in New York, they located, was the 9th JLAB site, located at the New York Genome Center in partnership with New York State, who gave them $17 million to locate there. They have a variety of office area, common area, and lab spaces. They house biotech, pharmaceutical, medical device, and consumer health companies. And they have been going strong there for 4 years now. Next slide. And basically what they do is provide small companies with big company benefits, not only a local ecosystem, which introduces them to the other players in the market, but also infrastructure, programming, funding series, and really the freedom to innovate in the way that they need to. Next slide. Now I'm going to turn it over to Nick Robine, who will tell us a little bit more about the New York Genome Center.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Nicolas Robine. I'm a director of computational biology, and I'm extremely excited to talk to you today about the New York Genome Center. And as you've heard already, and I think we can go to the next slide, the Genome Center was founded in 2011 in great part thanks to the effort from Nancy Kelly. And just for a personal anecdote, I joined in 2012, and actually Saturday was the 10th anniversary of my first day at New York Genome. So we had a small office back then on 57th Street and Broadway, but quickly signed a lease for this building located on 6th Avenue, 101 Avenue of the America, which is represented here. The building was completely empty when we signed the lease. There was a 1-year work in the building, and we occupied the first 7th floor of the building. You see pictures from the inauguration that occurred in September 2013. We were really created as a partnership between all of the major academic institutions in New York City, and they will be represented on the next slide, in combination with the philanthropic support. And really the goal of the New York Genome Center was to be a place for large-scale human genomics in New York City, something that did not exist before. And really what was unique was to have this partnership with all of the major academic institutions and hospitals in New York. So we really wanted to participate in establishing New York as a biotech hub, and to develop the area in Hudson Square. And so one element in identifying the location of the New York Genome Center was to have all of the great advantage of the Hudson Square neighborhood, but also to be a little bit further away from any of the other big academic institutions we were working with, so that we wouldn't be perceived as too close to any of them individually. So what is the New York Genome Center now? We have all of those what we call founding members, and there are new institutions that are added to this list. So you can identify the major academic centers in New York and in the New York region, including many new members from New Jersey. And we have both faculty members and staff scientists. I'm one of the staff scientists, but we have faculty member that will be that I'll talk about after. We do genomics, we do sequencing, we have sequencing instruments. We also have a clinical lab that does genomics for the clinic, directly for patients. We are a technology innovation group, and we do a lot of work in data science and computational biology. Mostly in the last few years, we focused on 3 disease areas: neurodegenerative disease, neuropsychiatric disease, and cancer. And I think I can go to the next slide. So our key strengths are the faculty and the affiliate members, affiliate programs. So really having together a lot of scientists working in the field of genomics. We have a technology innovation that really pushed the envelope and pushed the new protocol, the new technology. We have a great team of computational biologists, high quality genome sequencing that we provide for our collaborators in New York and outside of New York. And we have a lot of projects across the country and across the globe with international partners, clinical genomic testing, and that's going to be a future slide. And we do some work in community engagement and trying to really have a larger share of the population benefiting from the advance and the progress of genomics for the treatment of their disease. And as I said, the focus are technology innovation, understanding the contribution of genetic diversity to the different disease, computational methods, the functional consequences of genomic variation on the whatever the phenotype, what we can measure in the organs or in the cells or in the patients, and understanding the genomic architecture of complex disease. I have on the next slide a list of the faculty members that joined recently. I will go quickly, but they really represent the really high quality faculty group that work in different aspects of genomics, and you will notice that all of them are co-affiliated with some of the universities in New York. So Gamzee is at Columbia, Marcin Emiliansky and Dan Lendo are working on cancer genomics, and they're affiliated at Weill Cornell Medicine. Ivan Yosifov is at Cold Spring Harbor Lab, and David Knowles is also at Columbia University as Gamzee. On the next slide, I have the second part of this list, and that's Hemali Fatnani, who works also at Columbia, Neville Sanjana and Rahul Satija at NYU, Sanya Vikovic and Chenzu Zhu joined very recently. Sanya is going to be affiliated at Columbia, and Chenzu is at Weill Cornell. So we have really a great integration of the faculty members that are part of their group is at New York Genome Center, but they're also affiliated with the partnering universities. On the next slide, we represent the affiliate member working group that work in different subdomain of genomics and are serving to really build and consolidate the network of academic or scientists that work in collaboration with the New York Genome Center. And currently we have 84 members in these working groups, represented 16 institutions. On the next slide, I have a slide on the innovation and technology development. That's really one of the reasons that the New York Genome Center is very well known now in the academic community. So we have high throughput sequencing instruments, mostly coming from Illumina. We have the name here of the instruments that we are using, but we're really one of the largest genome center in the country and therefore in the world, with the ability to produce 60,000 whole genomes per year. We also are investing into long read sequencing, and I'm happy to talk in more detail about any of those details if you're interested. But Illumina sequencing, the one we use, our workhouse, is really using short reads, so a small segment of the DNA. There are no technology that can do much longer reads, and that's complementary. And there are new things we can study with those machines, and we need to have new methods to really take full advantage of those technology. But we also evaluate new technology that can reduce the cost of sequencing. We do a lot of work in single cell and single nuclei genomics, cell-free whole genome sequencing for liquid biopsy applications, FFP tumor sequencing, and so on and so forth. On the next slide, I have a list of the clinically approved tests. So as you know, we operate in New York State. We're under the regulation of New York State, which is more stringent than the federal CLIA regulation. And so we have a number of tests that can be ordered directly by a physician to the New York Genome Center, and where we would return a clinical report that will go in the clinical file of the patients, and that corresponds to either germline sequencing for what we call genetic disease, or cancer, where we sequence both the normal genome and the tumor genome. And so we have a number of tests that we perform. You'll notice we also perform COVID testing, and obviously that's really something we started very early on in the pandemic, and we have been going on for the past 2 years. I have a few more slides to present. So the Genome Center is really an active part of the biotech ecosystem. We have attracted funding. We have we have New York State funding. We have federal funding. We attract exceptional scientists to work at the Genome Center or to work with the New York Genome Center. We also, one of our floor is now occupied by JLABS that's been presented right before. And we have created over 350 jobs in the state of New York, and that includes the JLAB incubators. We also have a great space for events on the first floor of the New York Genome Center, and we have hosted a number of events that are relevant for this community. On the next slide and last slide, I want to highlight 4 companies we have either spin-off or worked with. The first one is Genome that works on low-pass sequencing platform for whole genome sequencing for smaller cost than the standard whole genome sequencing. The second one is called C2I Genomics and work on circulating tumor DNA and liquid biopsy, developed by Dan Lando. We have partnered with a company in California called BioLabs to license one of the technology we developed in the innovation lab called CytSeq for a combination of single cell RNA and protein sequencing. And finally, a company now located in Seattle called Variant Bio that was founded by 2 New York Genome Center faculty scientists, Stephen Cassell and Kasia. So that's what I had to present today, and I'm happy to answer any question either now or later in this meeting.
Thank you, Nicholas. I still remember the day you started in 2012, and it's really so gratifying to see how far the New York Genome Center has developed since then, with many of the same elements that we actually thought about when we were first writing the business plan. So it's just amazing to see the growth and development over the last 10 years. And thanks for presenting that.
Thanks for inviting me, Nancy.
Next slide. Now I'd like to introduce Glennis Mehra of BioLabs at NYU Langone.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks.
Hi.
Having me, and happy spring, everybody. So I am Glennis Mehra, the director of BioLabs at NYU Langone, located at 180 Varick Street, just a few short blocks from the Genome Center. In fact, C2I is one of our resident members. We are a very dynamic and diverse community. Next slide, please. So we operationally are fitted to help early stage companies, generally companies thought of to be in this valley of death where there is a 90% failure rate for startup biotech companies. And so we focus on supporting companies that are between their seed and Series B funding rounds. And how we do this is by providing 3 value domains. One is reducing the capital requirements for these companies by generally offering equipment and support services and operational services that they do not have to acquire or spend their significant capital early on in their development towards. And then the next value vertical is around creating network and partnerships, because we're a pretty diverse community, because we have an extensive network of sponsors, not just here in New York, but also through the BioLabs network, which is now internationally located in France and Germany. We can leverage a vast connection of capital and supplier resources. And we also have our marketplace fulfillment platform. And also, finally, the next value proposition we have is improving the efficiency to proof of concept. So at this early stage, companies are primarily focused on getting to their next milestones to trigger additional funding or to raise towards. And what we are operationally fitted for is to help these companies execute as efficiently as possible. So the founders, the managers, and the team members of these teams can actually fulfill their work, get it done as quickly as possible without the operational and space restrictions that they would ordinarily have to experience on their own. Next slide. Thanks. So we are one of the largest biotech incubators in Manhattan. And we are in a location that's historically been associated with infamy and also success. So we are located in the old IMCLONE site at 180 Varick. Which is common lore, is where our dear friends at someone went to prison because of insider trading for IMCLONE. I'm not going to mention who, but it's also the place where IMCLONE nurtured its success and was later on acquired by Lilly. It's within 15 minutes of Greenwich Village, the NYU Washington Square campus. We have Soho and all the history that takes place there, and the retail spaces. As mentioned, the E train is 1 block away, 1 train is on our block, so very much connected in a variety of different ways. We are, as mentioned, very close to the Genome Center and the emerging Google campus, and also all of the NYU resources on the Washington Square campus. Our space is fully built out, and we have both private and open shared lab and private desk office spaces available. One of the most important aspects, I think, of our existence is the support of NYU Langone Medical Center, which is crosstown, and also the New York City Economic Development Council Life Science Group. Because of this group and the efforts by the state, we are also in a tax-free zone, which is relatively unique for Manhattan. So companies working here, executing in our space are free of state income and city income taxes, and also revenue tax. Next slide, please. So as mentioned early on, we are a very diverse and dynamic community, and I think this is one of our strengths. So we have about 31 companies at any given point in time with 140 members. What's interesting is that not all of these members are scientists. We do have extensive support staff, admin individuals who have been growing with these companies as part of our community. Because of this diversity, we, I think, have an opportunity to amplify new areas of discovery that ordinarily wouldn't exist if someone is existing in a very focused silo of a work environment. So our companies span a variety of different sectors. So we have therapeutics, a little more than 50% of our companies are involved in therapeutic endeavor, and those include small molecules and also biologics. We have companies that are focused, such as C2I on diagnostics and computation. Our computation cohort, or the in silico companies, are generally focused on developing machine learning algorithms to enhance the discovery process. So again, great opportunities for collaboration within our community. So the in silico companies actually do bring significant value to the rest of our community. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, we do consider ourselves to bring significant value along the lines of reducing capital requirement, improving efficiency to milestones. And the way we actually do this is to take care of a lot of the headaches that these companies, early stage companies, experience. So we provide flexibility of space. So an individual or a few founders can start with 1 or 2 members and actually grow, scale into the site with ease. We have very flexible terms for our license agreements, license of space specifically. And we take care of everything in terms of procurement with the help of Triumvirate. We also help manage the EHS process and city ordinances. And what's, I think, unique to our platform is we also offer services and support that are in a technical in nature. So most of the groups here are relatively young, their teams are young, and so we find that offering this technical support helps them, again, improve the efficiency of their efforts. And we do this all compliments of our team and also our sponsors, who provide quite a great deal of the resources that are provided to this community. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, we think all of these value resources that we bring to bear allows fundamentally for companies to scale quite rapidly. As I mentioned early on, operationally, we're focused on helping improve the efficiency. And this has actually yielded significant results quite early on. The site opened in 2019, and within that short space of time, even during the pandemic, we've managed to graduate 3 companies that have scaled tremendously. So we have Black Diamond, Immuni, and C16, all starting with maybe 3 members. And by the time they graduated late last year, they're not only numbers of members and number of team numbers, absolute numbers of their companies increase, but also their valuation. So if you see in the next slide, what we pride ourselves on is a process in which we're actually curating not just for science, but we're curating for teams that we know will accelerate. And I think these 3 companies are great examples of this. So C16, which just recently moved to the Hudson Research Center, made synthetic palm oil. They were able within a short space of time, 2 years, to get to their initial proof of concepts, receive additional funding. C2I, which was recently mentioned, was able to raise their Series B. And Immuni, which I think most on the call are familiar with, gained unicorn status last year, going from, I think, approximately 20 million valuation to $1 billion valuation in less than 2 years. So wonderful things are possible utilizing our platform, and again, focusing on these early stage companies that have limited resources and enabling them to scale quite rapidly. Next slide, please. Now, I think all of this is not just our operations that's enabling this, but what I think our platform is fundamentally built on is the ability to curate, and that curation comes from the application process. So it generally has several gatekeepers, myself being one of them, but the way the application process works is there's an inquiry, there's a review by myself, and then there's a review by the selection committee. And this selection committee is quite unique in that it has members of NYU faculty, the NYC EDC Life Science groups, and also our pharma sponsors. And recently we do also have some representatives from VCs on that selection committee. And it's through this that we think we are curating for the most scientifically adept teams. And also we're curating for founders that have what I believe the grit and the tenacity to make it through this process and get into the door and execute utilizing the resources that we have available. Next slide. So to end, we're fundamentally more than just space. We are focused on improving science. Myself, as a scientist, our lab team are all scientists, and also teachers and instructors. So quite a didactic team here to help all of our community members execute, as mentioned. We fundamentally leverage being part of the BioLabs network and also part of NYU Langone Health. And so we offer, which I didn't mention previously, we offer access to the core facility in NYU. And so very much proud of being part of this vibrant and emerging, already emerged New York ecosystem, and very much looking forward to seeing what happens in the next few years. Again, thanks again for having us.
Thanks, Glennis. Wow, you're really making a great contribution to the New York life sciences ecosystem, as you just said. It's amazing to see what's happened in the short period of time that that you've been around. So thanks for all of that. Next slide. There you go. That's how you can contact Glennis if you need to. Next slide. So now we're going to turn our attention to Jersey City. This is a burgeoning life science subcluster, which didn't exist just 4 years ago, but is growing very, very rapidly. And I think probably is not yet on the radar of the life science community, which is one of the reasons that I'm so excited to highlight it today. Next slide. Jersey City is almost directly across the Hudson River from BioLabs at NYU Langone and the New York Genome Center. In fact, you can jump in a water taxi and be there in 10 minutes. So it's very, very easy commute to Manhattan. But most importantly, it is the only ground up live, work, play environment in the greater New York metro area. That is the gateway really between Manhattan and the rest of New Jersey. It's only one of two potential ground up developments of this kind that could be located in New York City. One is in Long Island City and is not has not yet moved forward as a life science development. And the other is Jersey City, where the Cove is being developed, and Clay and Peter are going to tell you a little bit about that. But I think what's very exciting about Jersey City is that because it's the gateway, there's the opportunity to create a global destination hub for life science, tech, and healthcare in the greater New York metro market. And we're going to tell you a little bit about that this afternoon. Next slide. So this basically shows you in blue the location of the largest concentration of academic medical centers in the world. And in green, you see the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And you can see the Cove sitting right there in the middle of both of them. And Jersey City, obviously, the Cove's in Jersey City. So obviously, Jersey City is an important gateway. Next slide. But even more importantly, it is connected to every major transportation network, not only within the greater New York metro area, but also from Boston to North Carolina via Amtrak. And so really sitting right at the heart of the life science tech corridor, which is the largest corridor in the world for these uses. Next slide. This slide just details the emerging subcluster in Jersey City, which really started in 2019 when Synexus moved from North Carolina to Jersey City. And the reason cited was the deep talent pool, which John Cahill is going to talk to you a little bit about later on, the connectivity to Manhattan, and the collaborative ecosystem. They moved to Jersey City in 2019. They're still there. And then they were followed by a number of companies, large and small, that established operations in Jersey City. Claris Biotherapeutics is a startup company that has received funding from a venture capital firm in Denmark. Evergreen Therapeutics raised a Series A round and broke ground on a new manufacturing facility nearby Jersey City. Merck spinoff Organon, which is a Fortune 500 company, located their headquarters in the Goldman Sachs Tower in Jersey City, 110,000 square feet. That is corporate offices, not labs, but it's still a very important presence there in terms of the burgeoning life science sector. 95 Green Street, which you're going to hear a lot about, has been repurposed by Thor Equities for life sciences, healthcare, and tech tenants. And the ecosystem includes other organizations like Whole Foods, which is expanding their headquarters in the Northeast there, as well as Centre Pompidou, which is a French Museum of Modern Art that's establishing their first North American satellite in Jersey City. But other companies that are there are Apprentice.io, which is an artificial intelligence company focused on life sciences, as well as NJIT's College of Computing, which basically established a pilot academic campus there, and together with Ben Gurion University announced a new institute for future technologies. You're also going to hear about the Liberty Science Center and SciTech City, which is developing just south of the Cove to create a 40-acre science and technology corridor right on the Hudson River. And finally, the Cove announced its launch last year. It will be a 3 million square foot live, work, play campus with 1.5 million square feet of life science, tech, and healthcare space. Next slide. And so you can see here, you know, kind of the logos of all of the active participants in the Jersey City subcluster, which are actually building this community. Next slide. And now I'd like to introduce Clay McPhail from Argent Ventures and Peter Schubert from NEAD, who has done the master plan and design work for the Cove.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy, for that introduction. I'm Clay McPhail with Argent Ventures. Happy to present to everyone today a short presentation on our development in Jersey City. Yeah, just expanding on what Nancy said. So the Cove is about a 14-acre site. We first started assembling in 2015. We completed the land assemblage in 2020. And if you go to the next slide. This is just an overview of the development. In the foreground, Liberty State Park is to our south, Jersey City to our north, right on the Tidewater Basin, direct water access to New York City, and right on the Hudson Bergen Light Rail. Next slide. This is some aerials of the site. I think one of these is from the 30s, and the other one might be from the 50s. So obviously, we are dealing with a legacy of industrial contamination. There was a lot of rail terminals in the area. It was a big logistics hub at the time. And where this site is now was basically where a creek called Mill Creek used to run into the Hudson and has subsequently been culvertized over the years. But we've been dealing with some legacy issues from that contamination. Next slide. So this is the site post remediation. We did a pretty extensive remediation in 2021, 2020 into 2021. That removed quite a lot of contaminants in the soil, PCBs, EPH, I mean, you name it, we had to deal with it. It was a pretty elaborate and extensive remediation. But proud to say that has been completed at this point. And next slide. And this gives you an overview of kind of where we are in the context of Jersey City, a little more zoomed in. So the site has the Jersey City Medical Center immediately to the north of it. To the south is Liberty Science Center and Liberty State Park, which is larger than Central Park. And our parcel is the only mixed-use zone parcel that neighbors the park. So we like to say that we're basically Park North, Park South, Park East, and Park West. We're it, if you want park frontage in Jersey City. The Morris Canal redevelopment area is to our west. There's been a lot of activity on Johnston Avenue and some of the other streets nearby. A lot of new mid-rise and low-rise residential project has come online. And construction there was pretty much cracking all through COVID, and there's been a lot of new deliveries of units, residential units in that area. It's definitely changed the look and feel of that neighborhood. And to our east is the Liberty Harbor North redevelopment area, which is a large redevelopment area. This view is a little bit dated. There's some additional towers that have been completed since this aerial was taken, but still a lot of acreage to go. There's probably another 8,000 units roughly zoned to go in, and that'll be basically a brand new ground up neighborhood for Jersey City. Next slide. And so this gives you an aerial and a little more context. Obviously, the site's going to have amazing views, which is one of the things that attracted us to the site. The views, the park frontage, and the access was all pretty unique. We're right off of the New Jersey Turnpike extension, so there's easy access by car, there's easy access by rail with Hudson Bergen Light Rail, and by water with the water the taxi and ferry system that currently exists, and hopefully can get expanded. And this view is before the Jersey Avenue Bridge was built. There's now a bridge, a 40-foot vehicular and pedestrian bridge that connects Jersey Avenue into Liberty State Park that was completed last year. Next slide. So this is a general overview of the full build out with our site. And, we think this is a pretty unique opportunity because with the hospital just to the north, which is Jersey City's only hospital, our mixed use innovation campus and Liberty Science Center and the SciTech City campus just south of the Science Center, we're kind of sitting in the middle of what could be a future, transformative innovation hub for not just for Hudson County or Jersey City, but potentially for the whole region. Next slide. Here's a little bit more on what I mentioned previously for SciTech City is the name of the project that Liberty Science Center is developing. The first phase of that is about 100,000 square foot incubator and conference facility that they're calling EdgeWorks. That'll be on the northern part of that campus. There's also a STEM focused high school that's going to be a Hudson County affiliated high school that I think is slated for about 400 students. That's the next phase of construction. And there's also about 400 units of housing, that part of it as well. The EdgeWorks building, I think that ribbon cutting was last year in the fall. And the remediation, I think, is the first phase that is underway, the site remediation for that building. And I think they'll follow up with the actual vertical construction once that remediation is completed. Next phase. Or next page. And one of the quirks of the site, which is also one of the benefits, is we have the main sanitary sewer line. There's actually a couple of sewer lines that run through our site, but one of them is the main sanitary sewer line, which basically takes all of the sewage from downtown Jersey City, which is a pretty massive catchment area, and takes it through our site onto the south to the Sake Valley treatment facility. So we have been researching the potential, we've gotten pretty far on it, of basically harnessing the energy, the latent energy in that sewer, heated sewer water, to use it to heat and cool the development. And this is it's not a new technology, but it is new for the East Coast. There's a pretty large system in Vancouver. There's one under construction now in Denver. There's a small one in DC. There are numerous ones in Europe and in Scandinavia. But it's based, if anyone is familiar with geothermal energy, it's essentially the same concept except with water, which makes it more efficient. And because most of what we send down the sewer pipes is heated water, there's I think the ambient temperature of that sewage is somewhere in the mid 60, 70 degree range. So you can use that temperature differential through a series of heat exchangers, and then we send that heated water on a loop through the development, a centralized loop that would heat and cool all of the various phases. Our original calculations, based on the flow that we have, we think we can generate about 10 megawatts of heating and cooling capacity, which would be enough to service, I think, around 75% of the max cooling load and around 95% of the max heating load. So the goal of that would be to try to achieve the goal of a no combustion site, and to get us closer to carbon neutral. And we think that's going to be a benefit for companies increasingly in the future who are looking to lower their carbon footprint and might have a long range or medium range goal of carbon neutrality or even net negative carbon. Next slide. This just is illustrates roughly where how that sewer pipe runs through our site and keeps on going to the south, where when it crosses into our site, we could pick it up and harness that energy. Next. And at this point, I can turn it over to Peter Schubert at INEAD, who can talk a little bit more about the planning and design aspects and some of the various lab phases. Peter?
Yep. Thank you, Clay. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, we're very excited about this. This is truly going to be a transformational community for not only New Jersey City, but we think the whole New York region. And you can see here fantastic views. The kind of center of it is this new park that you can see at the center of the screen here, and it's an extension of Morris Creek, part of the new tidal basins, but really a true miracle on the Hudson in the sense that this park will be an eco-environmental friendly park, attracting wildlife, and really something that is a true transformational kind of park in the sense that it is coming out of what was previously industrial toxic. Next, please. We're going to be, as a centerpiece, incorporating a new academic center, an innovation center. You can see here, there's a number of things that'll include on the left on the screen, but visually one can see that it's going to be also a new kind of lifestyle and perhaps a new typology for the New York area. What we're hearing across the board is that people, and particularly scientists, are looking much more towards being environmentally conscious as well as being a part of the environment. So here, this building will really truly be an extension of the center sort of pond, retail and mixed use and community space, and also a conference center will all be sort of adjacent at the top of the steps and below it, adjacent to the pond. Next, please. There'll be throughout the complex a series of spaces that will be part of a amenity package. Here you're looking at perhaps the potential for exhibition space, co-working space. Within this also there'll be food courts, fitness centers, and we'll talk about the retail in the next slide, please. As you can see here, this is the entrance from the retail street. This is the entrance that basically goes up to all of the amenity packages just discussed in the previous slide. Next, please. And here you can start to see that the real intention is, as a companion piece perhaps to the pond, will be a new retail street. From here, there'll be galleries, cafes, obviously lobby spaces, exhibition spaces, but there'll be a real extension of the urbanism of Jersey City. So in a sense, it's sort of town and country in the sense that Etna, which is what we're looking at, will become and form the kind of campus center of vitality of all the collaboration. And then obviously the pond and the distant Liberty Center or Liberty Park will be all about the environment and how you make those two sort of town and country ideas work. Next, please. Within then there will be a series of basically maker spaces. Nancy, maybe you want to talk to this one?
Yeah, so as Peter and I have kind of envisioned the space, we've been thinking about a lot of different kinds of spaces here. So it's not just laboratory space, not just kind of the incubator or startup space, but also space for engineering, for maker spaces, because so much of biology today includes engineering and other disciplines. And so what you're going to see here as we go through the next series of shots is just a number of different spaces that will be designed and built for the campus.
Next, please.
We have a question from Jay Brotman. Will there be opportunities for home condo ownership so that the researchers can build equity? Clay, do you want to address that?
Yeah, we're not quite sure. I think there will be some future phases of residential that will be condo, but the first phase that's planned is going to be rental.
Great, thank you. Peter?
Here you can see that the labs, particularly in the academic lab, have beautiful views, not only of the pond in front of it, but really the distant views of the Liberty Park as well as Statue of Liberty. Really, I think a unique opportunity to have views of the New York Harbor as well as Manhattan, which again plays to the idea of both the nature as well as this town and country aspect of how this really becomes a transformational and sort of really new kind of environment. The labs themselves, as you can see here, can face the water, although they're all built to suit. Next, please. And this becomes sort of the heart of the conference center, where there is obviously a lot of collaboration space, cafes. Again, I talked about the co-working space in the distance, but it also is adjacent to the park that's on the second level, overlooking all of the city and the basically environment around the complex. Next, please. And here again, you can see the sort of centerpiece of it all really playing into its potential environment adjacent to Liberty Park. That's really all about the pond and really enjoying the wildlife and really getting extension from the labs out onto the balconies, which really we're hearing more and more is really kind of a, not so much a mandate, but it is more and more of interest to the scientists to have access to outdoor space. Next, please. And just an aerial view again showing the pond and then Etna, which is the retail street, and then the Mill Creek Pond in the foreground. Next, please. The three buildings actually, again, what one is looking here is the centerpiece, which is the lowest one with the academic innovation, but we want to get across at each of the buildings in the back, the three buildings that are kind of in a terracotta color, each have floor plates of about 30,000 to 50,000 square feet. They're designed as multi-tenant floors, but obviously I'm sure Clay would be delighted to have a single tenant in any of them. They also have really great access along the train line that you can see kind of between the buildings. And that will be a street that basically goes to the north of the site, which will really feed all of the buildings from a loading point of view. So we should be able to develop a fairly truck-free and very beautiful pedestrian environment as part of the campus and along the edges of the pond, keeping all of the sort of loading dock and more the loading dock traffic to the north of the site and away from the pedestrians. Next, please. Here again, you can see pretty much what I just described. The pink is a part of the retail. There's more than that than this particular slide. Loading all to the north, and you can see the parking is within the structures. Next, please. I believe this is yours, Nancy.
So New Jersey 2 years ago passed an amazing piece of legislation that basically provides $11.5 billion in incentives for sustainable economic development, which includes transformative projects in life science and tech, also projects for community anchor institutions, incentives for startup companies. I think John is going to address some of this a little bit later on. But the point is that for anybody that is looking to be part of a transformational community like this, there are state support to help that happen. And if anyone is interested, please contact me or Clay. It's been very exciting to work on this with Clay and Peter and to envision the kind of community that Jersey City can become. Next slide. These are just some more renderings of Etna Street, what the campus will look like. Next slide. Looking back at the residential towers from the marina, which is right in front of the development. And I should also mention that Bio New Jersey Bio Partnering meeting is starting on May 9th. And they will have a reception, an opening reception at the Liberty House, which is a restaurant that is directly in front of the Cove site. We held the Cove launch event there last year, and it's a great way to visit and to get a feel for just the open nature of the campus and what it will be like to look back towards Manhattan with those views. And so there's a reception there on May 9th to open the biopartnering meeting. I would really encourage any of you that are interested in learning what's happening in bio in New Jersey to attend that full meeting. We actually do have discounted passes for 2 of our members. So if you're interested, please let me know about that. And you can learn more about that on the Bio New Jersey Biopartnering site. We'll be presenting at the opening reception as well. Next slide. And there you go. That's the exciting shot of the Cove. So thank you very much, Clay, for really having the vision to champion a development like this. And thank you, Peter, for all of the imagination and vision for helping to bring it to life.
Thanks, Nancy.
Now I would like to introduce John Cahill and Camilla Grello from Thor Equities and JLL to tell us about 95 Green Street, which is another exciting new addition to Jersey City.
Hi, Nancy. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, John.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. Thank you, Nancy and team and Triumvirate for having us. We're pretty excited to be here. I'm actually here live on site with Camilla. So we're going to give you a quick high-level overview of everything. We'll walk through our brochure. We'll go through some of our Blackbird technology heat maps highlighting the healthcare and life sciences labor force that surrounds Jersey City, in particular 95 Green Street. And then hopefully without any technical issues, I'll do a quick walkthrough virtual tour so everybody can see our 23,000 square foot pre-built lab suite that we're very soon delivering. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Camilla to speak a little bit about Thor and Thor Sciences. That's the life sciences division of Thor. She'll talk a little bit overview of the company and the asset and kind of where we were and where we are today. So Camilla.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you, Camilla.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. So let me start with a high-level overview of Thor Equities and Thor Sciences specifically. So as many of you probably know, we've been around for some time now. We were founded in 1986 with properties in the US, Europe, Canada, and Latin America. We currently have around 180 properties and 9.2 billion in AUM. We operate as a full-service, vertically integrated platform. We originally launched to acquire industrial and urban retail assets, which is how many of you think of us, I'm sure. But through the years, we have really continued to evolve our investment strategy to meet the market and capitalize on the changing demand patterns through the ecosystem. So in 2016, we launched Thor Sciences, and in 2017 launched Thor Logistics. And these asset classes are really our primary focus today. Since then, we've amassed a platform of life science assets with various partners, totaling over 1 million square feet in key markets, including San Francisco, Boston, New York City, and Maryland. In addition to 95 Green Street, notable investments include LABS RTP, which was a 72-acre Life Science campus in Raleigh-Durham, which we sold this past January. The Center of Excellence, which is 800,000 square foot campus in Bridgewater, New Jersey. 7 Powderhorn, which is 200,000 square feet in Warren, New Jersey, 100% net lease to Celgene. And West Goody Drive, which we closed this past December, which is 230,000 square foot conversion in Rockville, Maryland. With that, I'll hand it over to John Cahill to give you the literal walkthrough of 95 Green Street.
Great, thank you, Camilla. So yes, welcome to 95 Green Street. It's been a long trip, I'd say, but well over 2 years ago, we came to the building after it was vacated by an anchor office tenant, and our team at JLL quickly identified and came to a consensus that this building was very ideal for conversion. The building is an old industrial style manufacturing building, former Colgate Palmolive, part of the Colgate campus here in Jersey City. The building is actually set back from the waterfront. So during Hurricane Sandy, there were no issues, no flooding or anything like that. So the building is set back. It's 350,000 square feet, 8 stories. We have no zoning or use issues. We've clarified all of that with Jersey City to make sure that there are no issues. The building, from a technical and physical standpoint, really just checked many of the boxes that we all know and look for when you're looking for a conversion building. So the building went from industrial to Class A office, and then we have, as of January 2021, been fully under construction. And as I mentioned, getting ready to deliver a 23,000 square foot pre-built suite, which I'm sitting in right now. So we're very excited to finally deliver this building. As everybody knows, there have been some supply chain and logistics issues and everything, but we've been under construction, and the building right now is fully core and shell lab ready, 100% complete. A very large, significant investment is all of the brand new equipment on the rooftop. Air handling units, generator, you name it, everything is brand new sitting up on the rooftop. Since the end of last year, we've signed a couple of leases, and we have very significant interest from several other groups, either in the pre-built suite or full floor tenants for higher floors in the building. But back to the spec that we have here, the slab to slab ceiling clear is anywhere from 13 to 14, 15 feet on every floor. Floor plates are 45,000 square feet. Floor loads are 100 to 125 pounds per square feet or more. There's very robust infrastructure here. There was a data center at one point on the building on the 5th floor. We have 125 car parking underneath, and there's a ton of power coming into the building. We have 3 secured, very large interior drive-in loading docks. And we're happy to say that, in the next oncoming handful of months, we will be delivering space to 2 or 3 tenants in addition to the pre-built suite. So in a matter of months, the common area spaces, the loading will be all cleaned up and painted because we've been under construction, but there will be tenants fully open for business and operating within the building. If we could flip through to the next couple of pages, I'll go through the brochure here, just highlighting some of the important details. But as you can see, the base building lab ready, infrastructure is complete. This next slide here, I just went through most of those key characteristics of the building. A big thing for us right now is we have this 23,000 square foot pre-built suite ready to go. Speed to occupancy. Transit access is unlike anywhere else. It's the path. You've got light rail, you've got ferry access in multiple points, and multiple stops surrounding the building. So very happy with the transit access, not only for the New Jersey healthcare and life sciences labor force community, but also to be able to tap into the New York City healthcare and life sciences labor force, in particular downtown, and also the incubator spaces that were mentioned previously. Next slide. And I will say, having watched the project over the last 2 to 3 years, it's great to see us not only deliver space, but the actual photos and test fits and renderings and everything that our architect SGA and Vanderweil and Suite Construction have worked on are actually becoming a reality. So it's pretty exciting. Here on this slide, just highlighting again, some life sciences statistics for the immediate area, workforce, transit, the cluster that's beginning. As of this point, we are the only R&D lab life sciences building in Jersey City, with obviously other projects coming online around us in the future. So we're very excited to be, kind of pioneers, if you will, in Jersey City. Next slides, please. I'm going to go through some renderings here. Again, I'm sitting in the pre-built suite, so it's nice to have these things come to life. Next slide, please. And next slide. Okay, great. Here's a building stack, and I'll quickly go through this just to show you where we are. If you can go back one slide, please. Okay, great. So as I mentioned, we've got 8 floors of the building. Our general strategy from the beginning was we wanted to lease from the bottom up. We do have the ability to do medical and healthcare tenants, and you'll see that we do have one of them on the ground floor. On the south side of the building, we have a separate entrance, which would be for a building within a building, for a small, medium, or large size, healthcare or medical group. So we can do that separate from the main entrance into the building. As you can see on the ground floor to what would be the north right section, we've executed a lease with Jersey City Medical Center, which is part of the RWJ Barnabas healthcare system. Our current existing only tenant in the building is Honshu, which is a wonderful sushi restaurant that people come from all around to take advantage of. So they share the space on the ground floor. We have another piece on the ground. The second floor is, I think I saw a question come across. The second floor could be either medical or healthcare, but we also have about 10 or 12,000 feet, potentially up to 15,000 square feet earmarked for vivarium. We've been talking to operators, and we potentially would be able to put a vivarium operation on the second floor, which would be directly above the loading, and we would be able to have secure access for that vivarium to be operating within the building. The third floor is where we are sitting today. We have a pre-built suite here. We also have another tenant that signed a lease across the hallway for about 12,000 square feet. They will be taking occupancy, I think, within 2 to 3 months. Very excited to get them into the building. The fourth floor, we have a lease out for some space up on that building. But aside from that lease, we have interest from multiple tenants ranging from 8, 10, 12,000 feet, all the way up to full floor tenants, 40, 45,000 square feet. 4 floors, 4 through 8. And that's the remaining story for the building. And if you see on the right diagram here, the dark black section on the left is the loading area, this is the ground floor. As you can see, RWJ Barnabas will be on that. We're creating a north side entrance for them. And then the sushi restaurant is right there. And then the remaining block of space is the blue space. Next slide, please. Real quick, this is a slide of the third floor. This is our pre-built suite on the left. As you can see, the far left portion of blue, I'm not sure how it's coming out on your screen, but that is the laboratory space that I'm currently sitting in. We have one large open laboratory with several support lab rooms that could be converted for either tissue culture, QA, QC, any type of conversion for lab support. We do have the ability, we have some groups that are interested in potentially dividing the pre-built suite. We specifically did not design it so that could happen. So we could potentially divide half of the lab and half of the office space for 2 tenants. Our preference would be for 1 tenant, but we have the ability to divide that. We currently have the space set up for 4 6-foot fume hoods, and everything else is ready to go. The benches are here. We have vacuum, compressed air, all of the copper and everything coming through the ceiling for all of your gases and everything else. Next slide, please. Some more renderings. Down at the end of the hallway is our beautiful southern view. It's a little small, but that's the Statue of Liberty. Next slide, please. 4, 5, and up are spectacular views, south and west, great sunlight. Next slide. This covers all of our building specifications. We have all of this information not only in our brochure, but on our website, www.95greenstreet.com. So please check that out if you or if you'd like to reach out to me. We're happy to share all of this information. Next page are just test fits for various types of tenants, for multiple floor tenants. Next slide. One great thing about the building is we are installing great technology through an app through your iPhone to have access to the building, guests, packages, food deliveries, you name it. It's a technology, I believe, called Rise. It was acquired by BTS. Next is the neighborhood. This is, as you can see, 95 Green set back from the waterfront, so no issues with any potential flooding. Immediate area. Here is the life sciences and highly educated workforce we've highlighted with our heat map. Next slide. Next slide, please. These next two slides just highlight the New Jersey and New York life sciences ecosystem, as well as the transit network. As you can see, many familiar names of other locations and other tenants that are in the area. Next slide. Next slide, please. Here's a slide that Nancy had mentioned earlier on the incentives. We have a team of people internally or external consultants that can help with incentives as well. And then real quick, if we could pull up the next set of slides, I just wanted to give a quick highlight from our JLL's Blackbird technology. We've been requested by a handful of tenants recently to highlight and identify whether it's engineering, healthcare and life sciences labor force, or just the life sciences labor force in general, and proximity and location to 95 Green Street. So the great news is that as we knew and as we expected, when you look at the heat map, obviously you see a lot of red there, a very large swath of red throughout New Jersey, highlighting all of the biotech and pharma talent, but then obviously, again, proximity to Manhattan and downtown in particular, really puts us in a nice position to be very close to labor force in every direction. And the next slides are just different versions and renditions. If you could, next slide, please. These next two slides, we just layered in pharmaceutical, biotech, medical device, complementary to what we're building and achieving here at 95 Green Street. Next slide. Next slide. Again, obviously the very red large blocks of labor force bode well for 95 Green Street. Next slide. It's consumer products companies. Universities with engineering. This was, again, a particular request from the engineering group. And I think that's the last slide. Next one. In this last slide, just more data from our research department as it relates to comparison of R&D manufacturing functions as it relates to other East Coast life sciences markets. And that's it. We're happy to provide any of the details and the information. But again, for 95 Green Street, we have a great website with a ton of information, and you can reach out to anybody, myself or anybody on my team, and we'd be happy to provide that information. And more importantly, we'd love to tour more people through the building. So please reach out.
Yeah, thank you, John and Camilla. I was through the building 2 weeks ago, and it's absolutely extraordinary what you've done with it. Just beautiful pre-built lab space. So anyone that wants to see that and how this subcluster is developing, give John a call and get a tour through there. Just wanted to give you a brief taste of SciTech City with a video from their launch event. They were not able to come today to speak. They have their gala happening on May 2nd. So just wanted to give you a taste of what they're doing there. Carolina, can you launch the video, please? Next slide.
I'm standing on the 12.5-acre parcel of land that Jersey City, through the visionary leadership of Mayor Stephen Fulop, donated to Liberty Science Center for SciTech City, where innovators, scientists, engineers, and students will come together to harness science and create a better future for all of us.
Everything we will need to make New Jersey a global leader in innovation and technology from education onward will be right here on this campus.
SciTech City is an integration of an innovation center, the STEM school, residents, and I think it's just a very strong backbone for the development of science, which in turn triggers development of our whole society.
It's so important to do this in New Jersey because remember, we're the home of Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell. You know, we're the medicine chest of America. This is a place known for innovation, and the way you keep it going is to keep investing in that next generation, having the next round of students learn STEM subjects, and having the next round of startups plant themselves here.
Sheba Medical Center is the largest and leading hospital in Israel, and also one of the leading hospitals in the world in terms of innovation in healthcare. We've partnered with Liberty Science Center to create something very unique here by bringing the technology, most advanced technology of the future of healthcare, to converge here in this new SciTech City project, bringing the future of healthcare here to be used to improve the healthcare of population around Jersey City.
Integrating the Innovation Center with the high school is important because this is going to fuse mentorship and real-world possibilities with education. And likewise, if you're innovating or creating a startup, having access to enthusiastic young minds that want to do things differently and that are geographically proximate to you is really important as well.
There's nothing more important than seeing an initiative like SciTech that builds a full ecosystem around innovation, around reskilling and training, and is really targeting the young population that we need to groom for the future.
The momentum that now has really set loose today makes it clear that Liberty Science Center and SciTech City, we are on the forefront for Jersey, for America, and for the world. Science is going to be absolutely crucial, and we're going to be there.
When you look forward 10 years and 20 years and 30 years, this is a moment that will change Jersey City forever. So thank you and congratulations to everybody.
3, 2, 1, shovel!
Great. So I hope you can understand from all of that why I am so excited about Jersey City and the potential for what is happening there and the actual developments that are happening there right now, which are truly transformative for our region. I was just excited about Hudson Square when we did the New York Genome Center, and in my mind, this is kind of the next step for the greater New York metro area, which of course includes New Jersey. Thank you to all of our speakers today. Really appreciate all of the information you've provided to our audience. Just want to point out 2 upcoming events. You can see our upcoming events on our website. May 5th is our member spotlight and networking event. WSP is hosting us at their offices. So it's a great time for the community to come together in person, finally, and do some celebration, learn more about our programming for the rest of the year, as well as the leadership committees that have been meeting monthly and the work that they're doing. And on May 31st, we will have our next episode of the seminar series, which is going to focus on Mount Sinai and Academic Alley, which, as I said, is all about the largest and best academic medical centers in the world. So please go to our website or scan the Q code here and sign up for those events and keep an eye out for future ones. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.